Have you ever heard that sometimes things seem to come in threes? That's something that a lot of people say. It seems to be with families, with major events, with everything. Well, today we're going to talk about something that has come in threes. And the question is, do you have the warrior type of mentality to push through, to deal with it, to survive, and not only survive, but find a way to thrive through all the adversities that we sometimes face in life? If that's you, or if you know somebody like that, or, God forbid, it may happen in the future, will you be prepared? That's going to be the subject of today's edition of the Audacious Faith Podcast. Personally, I'm always inspired by people that have that survival spirit to them. People that don't allow things and circumstances of life to get them down. Maybe you've met some of those people. People that just press on, and you see the true character that they have within when the pressure's really on. Today I have a very special guest with me that I'm very excited about sharing with and finding out more about her life. Her name is Marie Waltner, and she's a very active person, actually known by my family. They actually met her doing workouts and everything at one of the local gyms. And she has quite a story. And so I'm so excited for you to be here with us today. And I just want to thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, we're going to get right into it because we want people to get to know you a little bit more. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your life, your background, family, and maybe your journey of faith a little bit as well.
Okay. I actually was born in the Philippines.
Okay.
And migrated here at age 16. So growing up as a child in the Philippines with my grandparents, it was very faith-oriented, very traditional, devout Catholics that every Sunday we have to go to church. And I went to Catholic school all the way up until I had to come to the States, like I said, at age 16.
Okay.
So that's always been my religious background. It was in the Catholic Church, although that kind of had changed as I was growing up and getting older.
Okay. And so what is it that you were, there's some challenges that we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes. Some things with some cancer and several bouts with that. But why don't you go ahead and kind of explain what was the daily routine of life before that happened? Okay,
before all my I would say physical and medical challenges, I'm just a typical, person, middle class mom of two, 8-hour a day job as an accountant at a local company in City of Industry, and just a wife with 2 kids. But I do love fitness. It was about 4 years ago in 2017 that I decided to turn my life around. I've always had bouts with weight and that sort of thing. So me and my daughter, I have a daughter who's 30, decided to go ahead and get into fitness. And we found this gym, and that was just the perfect fit, and that became our lifestyle. That was the change. So I would go work out after work. I would also work out before work. So I would go twice a day, and that was really the highlight of my day.
So what is it about fitness that you liked the most?
I think it's just the camaraderie also in the place that we had found, and at the same time just getting healthier and seeing the results and just changing everything, not just exercising, but also food and eating habits, and it really kind of also helped with my mental state.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the whole, what they talk about, physiology of everything.
Yes.
Just getting her moving around.
Correct.
Getting the better. And you mentioned the camaraderie, so you're a people person, I'm assuming?
I would say so. That's how I met your wife and your family.
Right.
I'm like a friendly, social butterfly, and we'll meet everybody that I see, so.
Okay. So do you think that, because a lot of people, they talk about this, especially in this age of COVID where everyone's become more isolated, when it comes to like exercising or really a lot of activities, for you, it seemed to be much easier to do. You're more motivated by the fact that there were others around rather than, say, doing it individually?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We did get hit when COVID, and so the the gym actually had to close down, and so we had to do online in-house, exercises, which was okay. That didn't stop me from doing what I was doing. I was just following through the program. And then when everything kind of reopened again, the gym jumped in and reopened, although we had to do it outdoors. I did that too. Like I said, it's just really a matter of your dedication to
Right.
that lifestyle.
Okay, so you have that self-discipline
Correct.
as well.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of fell off the wagon when COVID hit, and it was harder for them to get back on it. But like with COVID, no COVID, I never stopped. I mean, I do it at home, I do it online, I do it outdoors, and then eventually we reopened the gym and went back indoors.
Okay, so you've still been doing that.
Yes.
All right. Now here's the thing, which a lot of our audience doesn't know yet. So you're doing that, and yet the last 3 years have had quite a bit of challenges that for a lot of people they would not be. You're still exercising, you're still staying active. A lot of people would be flat on their butt at this point. Okay. Why don't you share a little bit about some of the challenges you've had to go through the last 3 years?
Okay, so 1 year after I started my fitness journey, I went on the regular, annual physical, and it was found out that I actually had breast cancer. I was diagnosed by it, and lucky for me, it was at the very, very early stage. It was the stage 0, but nevertheless, it was cancer.
Okay.
It was pretty scary because I never really had to face anything like that. So we just went through the whole process of what needs to be done, and eventually it was decided that yes, the best thing to do, even though it's very early, is to remove it.
Okay.
And so I had to go through a whole breast surgery. They removed the cancer, and my downtime was like 1 week, and I was back at it. Because you just
Right.
really had to fight it.
So 1 week and you were
And
back
I was
at
back
it.
at my regular, whatever I was doing,
So
work,
they did the
working out.
surgery. Was there any other treatments after?
Since it was very early, it was very minimal. They did give me the option of doing radiation, but I opted out because
Okay.
to me, it was, it was more of a personal choice because it would have made me weak had I done that.
Sure.
So aside from the surgery, I just went ahead and did that, and then I'm taking medication for, just so it doesn't come back.
So 1 week, right back at
Right
it.
back at it.
Okay. Well, what do you think it is about you that caused you to be like that? I mean, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I need a month, 2 months, take a quarter."
I have been asked that question, and I really don't have a straight answer. I would just say that that's just how I'm built, It's like I wouldn't allow anything negative to try and pull me down.
Okay.
If anything, you have to rise from it and fight through it. And that's what I did with my first bout of cancer. Now, the year later, once again, after I had my regular checkups, and this time around was for them to make sure the cancer's not back, they found something else on the opposite side. And just like the first time, I just said, okay, here we go again. So by then it kind of even became a routine. I kind of knew what to expect and what the next course of action is. And this time, it wasn't as bad as the first.
Okay.
So thank God for that. It was pre-cancer. But since I have a history already
Yeah.
of cancer, they had to make sure that it's taken care of. So we went through the same process. It was removed, and everything was removed. So after about a week, I went back normal again, or to me normal. And I was given the go-ahead that everything was clear. There's nothing left, and I was cancer-free.
Okay. So you mentioned you don't like to focus on negativity. I noticed when I was looking on your Instagram account, it mentioned things about, being very positive. I don't know, again, where this teaching's come from, if you've just always been that way, because a lot of people will be in the same circumstances of life, but they see it through different lens. Really, the fact are the same, but the story that a person tells himself is completely different.
Correct.
And then, of course, the actions follow. So why is it so important to you to to just try to keep the negativity out?
Well, I also want to give a good example to my two girls.
Okay.
They
reason.
mean the world to me. And I have a very strong family support system,
Sure.
both my family and even my in-laws. So with that in mind, I can't, I find it hard to show not so much weakness, but like just to give them the because everybody kind of has to go through bad times and sickness and all that. But more than anything, I just want to be a good example to my kids especially and to the people around me that it's really not as bad as you think.
So that's a big why for you then.
Correct, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Makes good sense. So here you are, you're going through this, you're staying active. I mean, 1 week and boom,
Yes.
right back at it. Twice in a row.
Twice in a row.
You're trying to feel well. Obviously, the health is important to you as you're trying to take care of yourself, nutrition and everything. And then you get a third shot of something. And this one is a little bit different. Something that would be to most people a little scarier. And I'm assuming it probably was to you as well. Why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about that?
So you mentioned it comes in threes. So this is my three. I had the two cancers, and I've been very, very healthy and very, very active the whole year. And somehow something changed a little bit. It was maybe the last week before I went to the hospital that I started feeling something different. No major symptoms whatsoever. Not even headaches, but just more of a weakness and no motivation, no energy.
Okay.
So when I finally went and decided to go to the hospital, I didn't even think it was an emergency, that I just opted to go to urgent care.
Okay.
And when I went, urgent care doesn't open till 9 a.m. So I had to walk to the emergency room, and it was there that was found out after giving them what my symptoms are or what I was feeling right away. The doctor said, let's do a CAT scan.
Okay.
And they found a mass on my right side, which was already the size of an orange. So yeah, that was kind of a shock because that was very unexpected to me.
Right.
But I didn't know the severity of it until the doctor started explaining that I have to be transported to LA Medical Center of Kaiser and be in the ICU because it was serious.
Right.
But it never really even occurred to me at how bad it was until I was taken to the ICU, and then more tests were done, MRIs, ultrasounds, name it. They did it that first day. And just waiting for the neurologist to finally come and let us know what needs to be done. And we had to wait about 24 hours for that. And so we did see pictures, and and he said, you're definitely going to have a date with me on Monday morning. We're going to cut it open and remove it. Wow. It was very scary. It was scary, but it kind of like, to me, I would say I was probably numb at the idea, but I just said, we got to do what we got to do. If
Right.
that's the best option to do it, then let's go do it.
So you mentioned the pictures. I think on your Instagram I saw the pictures
Yes.
listed,
Yes.
and it was very significant.
Yes, very significant.
So what's going through your mind? I mean, you're a very positive person, you're an active person, but this all of a sudden, I mean, you see this picture of this thing that's really taking up a large portion of your, inside your head, and you're mentioning your kids, your family, and everything. So where was the biggest concern? I'm just wondering what's going through. Were you thinking more of them? Were you thinking more of you and the unknown?
To be honest, now that you've asked that, I think it was really more general. It never faced me that something bad would happen. To me, it's just another step that I have to take, negative or positive. I have to do it. Whatever the outcome, I was prepared. So, but I never thought of a bad outcome. I've always thought of it as I'm going to come out of it the other way and everything will be fine. And thank God that's exactly what happened.
So they went in and did the surgery. About how long a surgery was that?
The surgery was about 5.5 hours, a little over 5 hours.
Okay.
Between prep and the actual surgery itself. So I didn't know what had happened. The only thing I could think about right now, or was how my husband felt those 5.5 hours of just being in the waiting room, not knowing how
Right.
it would go, one way or the other. So yeah, it was quite it was quite a journey.
So for you just remember being out, and then it's just.
I just remembered being with the surgical team and them explaining what needs to be done. And then I used to have hair this long.
Okay.
And that was the thing that, I had to give up. It's like, okay, I guess you're going to have to shave my head.
How long had it taken to grow it that long?
I've always had long hair. So over the
Okay.
years, I kind of will just get it trimmed a little bit. But I've always kept it long.
Okay.
So this is a big change.
Yeah. So are you trying to get it long again over time, or?
Well, we'll have to wait and see because I don't know exactly how long it'll take. But hey, I'm just taking it day by day.
Right. So you wake up from the surgery. What do you have any recollection of what was going through your mind when you woke up? I mean, you probably didn't know what it really happened,
Well,
right?
I woke up, and they just kind of told me that, okay, everything went well, and, they did some tests, like mental testing, I guess, to make sure I'm still there and everything's okay.
Yeah.
And to me, it was more of like, where's my husband? Is he okay? I know he's here somewhere. That was more my first concern was, is he okay? Not even so much as, am I okay?
Yeah. For some reason, I'm getting through my mind. I mean, so it's a serious situation. I don't know your personality. I think waking up knowing everything was okay. Was there a temptation? Maybe even a temptation to joke around, like, "Who are you?" or pretending.
No, actually,
nothing like that.
maybe that's not my kind of. That's not really how I am. I'm not
Yeah.
not like a prankster per
Right.
se. But maybe I should have.
Well, I mean, it was kind of a serious situation.
Yeah,
so,
it was a serious situation.
But yeah, for some reason that flashed to my mind. You could have really fooled somebody
oh,
there.
I could have,
Yeah.
but no, not at all, not at all.
Okay, so this was how long ago? Was it not too long ago?
Actually, the surgery was August 9th of this year.
Of this
so
year.
it's only been about 6 weeks.
Wow. I would never know. I think our audience can agree you're looking pretty good for that. So did it end up being, it wasn't cancerous, or it was?
Well, after they removed it and took everything for testing, it was found out that it was a stage 2 meningioma. And luckily, it's non-malignant.
Okay.
Had it gone the next step, it would have been
Yeah.
even worse. So it's non-malignant. And then the way that it was positioned, or the way that where it was, the doctor is able to remove 99.9% because I guess a part of it is attached to a nerve of some
Okay.
sort. So they can't really, it would have been bad if they even attempt to do that. But they
Right.
removed as much as they can.
So let's see where faith all ties in with this now, because obviously now you've gone through, 1, 2, 3, right in a row. And yet you've managed to just kind of seemingly know or feel that it was
Yes.
going to be okay the whole time. You have any idea? There's always a purpose for everything.
Yes.
So has God revealed to you at all what you think some of the reason might be for you going through some of this?
After the third bout, after this third trial, this is exactly what I was telling myself. There has to be more than this. There's a calling, there's a reason. And I'm still trying to kind of digest all that and figure it out. But as you could probably see in my social media, a lot of my posts have a lot to do with faith.
Right.
And have a lot to do with positivity and the Lord and God, and I'm giving everything that's happened to me to Him.
Right.
Yeah, and I truly believe that there is something, if it's to inspire people, if it's to give faith in some people who are not really quite there yet, but it's tying together because here I am today with you in this church.
Exactly, right.
Yes.
And there's very possibly somebody out there right now who is going through something similar, maybe facing something very scary in their life that's beyond their control. How during those times, because you said you felt, would you say you felt a peace?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's probably couldn't be clearly explained why you felt that peace,
Yes.
except for the part of faith.
Yes, it has to be faith. I'm a true believer that if something bad or negative happens, you just have to surrender, and you just have to just believe that it's there for a reason, and that everything happens for a reason, and whatever that may be, just be ready to accept and move on.
And even if you took the alternative, because a lot of people will do this, they'll take the alternative and they'll start. Was there really anything you could do about it anyways?
No, there really isn't. There really isn't. Nothing you can do. If it went the other way around, all you have to do is really just to accept it.
Right, okay. So in the search of everything of what this means, and even right now, what it possibly means, I would say that because of the fact that you've gone through, that God has taken you through what you've gone through, there is a sort of, I don't know if this is the right phrase, a moral authority to be able to speak on this. Because it's one thing that we do a lot in faith circles, is we tell people, well, this is what you need to believe. This is how you need to deal with things. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to be able to still say that having gone through it. Okay? So the story that you now have, this experience that you now have, having to actually face it, not just have a faith directive, but actually having to live it, going through that. Does that, are you sensing that platform at
Yes,
this point?
I most definitely am. I most definitely am sensing that, that I'm put in this place somehow to be a testimony of what he can do. I've always said it, and my mom especially has always been saying it, that what I went through this last 3 years is nothing short of a miracle. It has to be that. It has to be coming from a higher power that's giving me all the strength, that's giving me all the positive energy, and to be here and be a testimony of things that could happen, and a miracle that can very well happen to anyone.
God can still do miracles,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely still does it. And for those of us, I'll say us because sometimes I do it as well, that are having the excuses not to be working out, not to be getting fit. Maybe we're sitting on the couch a little too much, having a little too many snacks, whatever it is. And we'll use all these excuses. You've had a lot of reasons to not stay active, and yet right back at it. So after this tumor in your brains area, how long until you got back onto the fitness?
Actually, right now I am not back into the fitness.
Okay.
This is a little bit different than the last two.
So I'm sure it's a little harsher.
Much different. So this is how quickly I have gone back up on my feet. Is I haven't even had my follow-up with my neurologist. That's not going to happen until Thursday. After hospitalization, the only time that I went back to the hospital was for them to remove the 50-plus staples that were on my head.
Yeah.
And then, even then, they were able to give me a little bit of leeway. They said, normally we would suggest that you should be bed rest. You should really be recovering at least 2 months. But just the way I am, I can't sit around for 2 months doing nothing. Yeah. I'm losing my mind as it is. So they kind of gave me a little bit of leeway. Goes, okay, what are you willing to do? And what do you think you're able to do? So 2 weeks into recovery, I said, I want to go back to work. Maybe not full on. I have a desk job. It's not like anything physical. So they said, okay, no more than 3 hours a day. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm back to work. Although I'm doing more than 3 hours a day. I'm pushing it a little bit.
So 3 hours becomes 4.
It's 4. Right now it's about 4.5.
It's stretching. Maybe it's 5, right?
Yeah. So when I see the neurologist on Thursday, then I will have a better idea of where I am allowed physically and, working out wise and the fitness. Although I kind of already have a clue that perhaps they will let me go back in about a week after next. So my goal right now is to get back to the gym the beginning of October.
Wow. Well, you came in here today with you seem to have a lot of energy. I mean, and so I would think that because so often there's a situation where people are at home thinking about everything. I'm going through this, I'm recovering. I think they make themselves more sick.
Yes.
just dwelling on it in the mind, right?
Correct,
So it's
correct.
better for you to just be active.
Go out there and, interact if you can, with everything that's going on right now. I'm trying to get my independence 100%. I can't quite drive long, distances quite yet, or
Okay.
I haven't really. I'm enjoying the idea of my daughter and my husband chauffeuring me around right now.
There you go.
Although today was an exception, I actually had driven myself here, which
Okay.
was not so bad. This is the farthest that I've driven since the surgery.
Is there a reason why they're limiting your drive?
They just said that, because there's a possibility of me getting dizzy, there's a
Okay.
possibility of me getting weaker, because it does, driving does require quite a bit of mental and physical. So we're trying to minimize the possibilities of a relapse, I would imagine.
So, but you're talking about doing accounting,
Yes.
which takes concentration, doesn't
Yes.
it? Have you had
Yes.
any trouble focusing on that? or-
And actually, if anything, it kind of took me back to pre-surgery. I was actually being very forgetful. Now it's beginning to make sense now
It was
as to why
okay.
that it was there. There
Yeah.
were certain things that I would lapse, there were certain things that I would forget, and in accounting, it's critical. I was missing some bills. I remembered, luckily I have a boss that's kind of very, very understanding to that. So now we kind of even talked about it and laughed about it. He goes, "Oh, that makes sense now. Why you were forgetful? Why you would forget to flush the toilet, or why you would forget to close the door, or your car door." Or there were little clues,
Little things that were
little
happening.
things that were happening that I am just now kind of puzzling together and say, it makes sense now. It makes a lot of sense.
I'm thinking back to my high school accounting class that I had. I was really into accounting. I thought it was awesome until the guy was the CPA who was teaching it. And at the end of he gave the class project where you were taking every little, thing all the way through. And what I found, when you're talking about brain power and concentration, if you missed one entry, if you made one mistake,
Oh, that's it.
now you were having to retrace
Yes.
all the way back. You couldn't just pick it up from where it was.
No, it's like one decimal point, 1 0 makes a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I decided not to go into accounting. Too much concentration there was required. All right, so having gone through all this, Maria, at this point, are there one or two lessons that stand out to you, possibly? Maybe some of it you're still going through the process. Are you being taught something, you think?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's how when life is going on, sometimes you forget about faith. Sometimes you forget about that part of your life, the spirituality part of your life. And from time to time, I could see that happening to myself. When COVID hit and the churches were shut down, and obviously you can't go do the in-person service, and that kind of phased me away from it a little bit.
Okay.
It was just it's harder to do it at home. Although you have a Bible, you can always say I'll do it later, or I'll read later, I'll reflect later. And I was sensing that more than anything for me, and having to go through this, I always look at it as it's a message, kind of perhaps to just remind me that you're beginning to walk away from that part of your life. You're doing well on your physical, you're doing well on your mental. What about your spiritual? And I think that's what it is. That's what I'm learning from all this. And that's why I truly believe that I'm going through it and gotten through it in the most positive aspect or possibilities is because of that. Then that way I can be a testimony, and I could really, truly go out there and share it to whoever might need it.
Right. So you think it kind of gives a renewed dependence?
Correct.
Because-
Renewed belief, a renewed, you always say born again. So it's a rebirth and a rebirth and a rebirth. It's almost like a cat. I'm going to have 9 lives, possibly.
Well, hopefully we're not going to go through
No,
this 9
I hope
times.
not.
Three is good.
3 is good. I'm good with 3. Like they always say, it comes in threes. And so my hope is like, okay, this is number 3. So I better step up and, go with a game plan. There's something here. And I think it has a lot to do with a calling.
Right.
That I would be some kind of a vessel or an inspiration to people out there with all the things that are going on right now, especially.
Yeah.
You just have to believe, and you just have to be of help to those who might need it.
So have you seen that people in times of a challenge, a health challenge, or something going on in their family, a lot of the things that people say all the time, I don't have time. For God, they don't have time.
They don't have
For things of faith, they don't have time. For a lot of, even family things, family time. Some people make the time, a lot of people don't. They're so busy with the jobs and the professions and the hobbies and everything that they're trying to keep up with. But when you're suddenly knocked on your behind, basically a lot of the other stuff is, it's not as important anymore. And so it's quite a lesson, a reminder.
It is a constant reminder of what's important. And with something like this, it reminds you that family is always there. It was my family, my poor husband had to take off a whole week of work and had to drive from West Covina to Los Angeles on a daily basis.
Which is not an easy thing.
Not an easy task. And then coming home after being released from the hospital, even though I was ambulatory and mobile, certain things I cannot do for myself. I wasn't allowed to bow my head a certain level. So there are certain things that I would not be able to do for myself. And he had to step up, and my children had to step up. And, I'm the one that's very stubborn and say, I can do this. I can do it all, But, sometimes you just have to really reflect on that, too. Family, especially, is always there. And I'm surrounded by a whole lot of wonderful people, friends, who prayed for me all throughout this whole ordeal.
So you mentioned the, not being able to do things for yourself. And you seem like the type of person that was pretty much a go-getter. You take care of it. So how humbling is that?
It's very humbling, in fact. Even to this day, I always tell my husband, honey, I'm really sorry you have to do this. He goes, no, you don't have to be sorry, because, this is part of life, and this is why I'm here. And I'm just very fortunate to actually have a husband that's very supportive and helpful and always willing to do it for me,
And I'm sure he knows that if it was turned around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. True. And then my daughter, like I said, I have 2 kids, and I've always been very close to them anyway, but this whole experience just had gotten us even closer, I would say. My oldest daughter, especially, like I said, she's 30. I have a 30-year-old and a 12-year-old. So that's quite, that's quite a
Now, how does that
difference.
dynamic work? Because that's quite a spread. So it's an older sister, but it's almost like a different role than that.
Yeah, well, in a way, it allowed me to work full-time because my 30-year-old, even though she works, her job doesn't really, restrict her to an 8-hour-a-day job. It's more flexible. She's a dancer, choreographer, and works for a studio. So she, in turn, now is like the second mom. She's even more than the mom, I would even say at this point, because she takes care of the baby sister more than I have. She's the one that takes her to school. She's the one that picks her up from school, takes her to dance classes, and all those extracurricular activities.
Right.
I'm more secondary, and as a matter of fact, truthfully, she's more afraid of her big sister than me. She can manipulate me more than she can manipulate her.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the dynamic. It helped me, actually, in more ways than, more ways than one. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So priorities, when you face things and we see what's more important and the other things are not, have you zeroed in on some of the things? Let's say it hadn't gone well. And let's say the prognosis was more grave. What senses have you seen are the things that are most important in life and the other stuff just isn't as important?
Wow. Of course, family. and just being prepared for the worst. You always have to face life with the worst expectations.
Yeah.
Then that way, if everything goes the other way, then hooray, hallelujah. But also be prepared for the worst things that could happen. And importance-wise, like I said, family. As long as they are there, I'm pretty sure that whether or not it went this way or that way, it's always going to be okay.
Did you say more things to each other that you maybe would not have said as often?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Now that we had gone through this, I expect more family time. We're kind of, before it used to be like, okay, you go your way, I go my way, you go eat when you feel like it, and I'll do it when I feel like it. Now I'm noticing that we're actually getting together, we're eating together more and spending more time together. Which was kind of like, not forgotten, but it was less and less and less over the years, I would say, especially the teenager. That's very hard. Or preteen, I would say. It's very hard. She has her own life right now. But she's a trooper, and she's understanding what's going on and is willing to go with the program here.
So value, putting things of value. We've been talking a lot lately about if a person knew that they only had 30 days left or even a week left, how would the daily activities change? Certain things we just wouldn't do, other conversations we'd have to have, different things that we had not taken care of, we would definitely want to take care of. The reason I ask that question is because if we could learn that lesson before we're at that point and make a better use of our time, maybe that's some of what you've learned through some of this.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, kind of your faith takes kind of a back seat when everything goes perfect. You prioritize other things. Even family becomes, secondary.
Yeah.
You become kind of centered and self-centered, and I wouldn't even say necessarily selfish, but that's usually what happens when everything is going well. Everybody just go in their own, happy or lucky way and whatnot until you hit that roadblock. So I would have to say if that's the case, so now it's different because I look at things like there's always going to be that possibility of hitting a roadblock like that.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, always be appreciative of what you have every day. Always remember to say I love you to those who matter. Always, just be positive and just prioritize things in life. Because it could happen. If it happened to me, it could happen to anybody.
Sure can happen, especially in these days and ages when people just get sick out of
Oh,
nowhere.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so definitely we want to prioritize that. So based on you being on that side of it, dealing with that, let's say somebody right now has a loved one, someone they care about, and they're going through something like you're going through. What's the best way? Because a lot of people will say, it's like, oh, I just wish I could do more for you. What were the most valuable things that you think a person can do to help that person that's going through that?
Prayers. I think that was the biggest factor for me because when I found out about the diagnosis, immediately I reached out on social media, asking for prayers and asking for this. And the support that I got was just astronomical. I never could have imagined in a million years that I had so much love out there until that happened.
Yeah.
People reaching out to me and helping out and just praying. That was one thing too that I had never really even realized. And people even coming up to me saying that all throughout your whole fitness journey in the cancer scare, you've always been my inspiration. You've always given me that positive thing. And, some people at the gym that were willing to give up already kept coming. Just seeing you and seeing what you've been through. And yet, here you are again. And I never realized that I was actually made that much of an impact to a lot of people until then.
Yeah.
And that could have been another thing that I had to be aware of. to realize and understand what I'm supposed to be doing or what my purpose is in life. Because, yeah, like people I've never even really known on a personal level, but had seen, just, had reached out and said, you've made a difference in my life. You've inspired me. Everything that you write on Instagram or Facebook had made a difference. It kind of like, I never even thought of it that way.
People watch much more than we realize, right?
Yes.
And
I mean, even if it's one person, if I made a difference to one person, that's, more than enough.
Yeah, and that purpose, I think, you probably realize that by the third time here going through that.
Oh, yeah.
And that maybe puts a little more, I don't know if the word accountability is correct, but maybe it just gives you a little more will to push.
Yes, to push. Yes, definitely. A little bit more will to push and a little bit more inspiration for me to do what I can do for whoever is looking or whoever is listening or whoever is watching. Because obviously they are watching.
Yeah. Well, based on that, I'm going to ask you one last question.
Okay.
I've enjoyed our time today, by the way, so I
Yes.
really do appreciate you coming.
Yes.
There could be, we don't know when it's going to be watched. So there's
Okay.
going to be someone going to watch it soon. It could be a year from now, 2 years from now from the recording of this. But there's going to be somebody out there, and faith is not really a big part of their life at this point. Maybe they haven't really explored it yet, or they're just starting to. How big of a difference maker do you think it is? I mean, you've gone through this, and faith helped get you through. What would it have been like without having that faith, having to just deal with it on your own? And why would you say to a person out there that faith is so vital for them?
Yeah, I mean, had I not have my faith, it would have come out very, very different. I mean, I probably would be very negative and just be full of self-pity. Faith has a lot to do with it. And to those people who question, whether or not it really is there, if God is there, if there's a God, just kind of close your eyes and just believe. I mean, find it in your heart. Try to look for the worst things that had happened in your life and how you got through with it. And it's there. All the signals are there. All the signs are there. And like I said, I'm not a super religious person, but after having to go through all this, I truly believe it's what made the difference for me, is my faith. And right now, even to this day, I find it a miracle. I always say it's a miracle that I'm here.
Amen. And I'm sure that God's going to do much more through you. And we look forward to seeing that in the future. I do want to encourage you, if you want to follow Marie on Instagram, you can just look her up on Instagram and send her a request. And you can kind of see, because she is out there and doing a lot of stuff and very active. And also, we want to encourage you, if you've not subscribed to the podcast here on YouTube or whatever platform you're listening to this on, we encourage you to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. Make sure you go back and see some of the other ones that maybe you didn't catch, because they're all great and awesome. Yes. We appreciate your time being with us today. This has been the Audacious Faith Podcast.
God bless.